Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, hey, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that Handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
Thank you so much, Jess. And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. Today's topic is monitoring and optimizing a hybrid cloud environment. I want to start by saying a big thank you for joining us today. On the EcoCast, we have got an incredible lineup of heavy hitters, including Catchpoint and Commvault, Dynatrace, Nasuni, and Progress Software. This is a completely full flight, everyone, as you can see, so make sure your seatbelts are buckled, you are comfortable, and get ready to learn. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Keith Ward with Actual Tech Media, and I'm honored to be your moderator for this incredible EcoCast today. The other members of the mod squad include the luminous Jess Steinbach, who you just saw, along with Scott Becker and Mackenzie Pudici. And I have a question for you to answer in that box to get your muscles working, like Jess said, in that questions box. So, like many of you, probably, I watched the Super Bowl on Sunday, and I wanted to ask you, who did you have winning the Super Bowl this year? Now, I thought the Chiefs would win, not because they necessarily have the best team, but because they have a magician at quarterback. I don't think there's any other way to put that. Let us all know your thoughts on the game in the questions box now and start limbering up those muscles. And Lions, nice one, Eric. There's always going to be one snarky guy in the comments, right? So Aaron is the one who said Lions. So, all right, Chiefs and hope 49ers, but didn't expect the Chiefs all the way. It was a great Super Bowl, Mortez. I agree with that. All right, you Lions fans, I've heard enough from you. Maybe they'll be there next year, right? They got close this year. Anyway, I'm going to move along. You folks keep letting us know about who you had or who you want to see next year. That's perfectly fine. We'll get some more Lions fans in here. In the meantime, I'm going to move right along. Now, I want to point out that we are giving away some fantastic prizes today. 3 of you will go home $300 richer in the form of Amazon gift cards. So make sure to stick around because you do have to be present for the entire event to be eligible to win. And with that, let's move on to the main stage of the event. Our keynote today comes courtesy of one of my favorite speakers, the exceptionally entertaining and engaging Bill Clayman, who is going to set the table for today's presentations. Bill, you now have the mic, sir.
Thank you so much, and welcome everybody to this EcoCast presentation from Actual Tech Media. I'm excited. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss, hybrid cloud. Now, listen, a lot of you folks listening to this may already know what the hybrid cloud is. It's nothing new to you. And especially we're going to be discussing a riveting subject, monitoring and optimization of a hybrid cloud environment. But before we jump in too much further, I'm Bill Clayman. I'm going to be kicking things off here this morning or this afternoon, wherever you're watching this, whatever time zone you're in, because we are global. I am the board member over at Neuro, and actually, we do a lot of stuff around AI, large language models, really advanced workloads, drum roll, in different kinds of cloud environments, on-premise, big public cloud environments, and most of all, hybrid clouds. So I'm going to be putting in some expertise, some of the things that we've learned, not just with old school legacy workloads, but some of the more modern ones in hybrid cloud environments and how you can monitor and optimize them. We're going to discuss that a little bit here today. Outside of that, I am the AFCOM Data Center World Program Chair and contributing editor over at Information Week, Dark Reading, Data Center Knowledge, Data Center Frontier, and a few other publications. And I'm just so excited to be chatting with you today. So listen, we've got a fun conversation today. You're going to have a lot of really great speakers coming up. But let's set the stage here a little bit and discuss hybrid cloud, where it's going and what's happening. First things first, let's look at cloud and data centers by the numbers. Now, I actually don't want to talk too much about the massive expansion of cloud computing, how much stuff is being deployed and what workloads. Let's let's look at physical infrastructure for a second to really understand the growth of a cloud ecosystem. So there's a really great research report from Synergy. They recently stated there's now about 900, actually I think there's more than 900 hyperscale cloud data centers in the world, 3 times as many as there were about 5 to 6 years ago. And here's the crazy thing, we're not going to talk about the pandemic, but there was, despite crazy logistical issues and challenges, 52 of these facilities came online in 2020. Now, there's another really interesting research group called 451 Research, and they take a look at all of the co-locations and wholesale data centers and facilities across many different kinds of markets. Now, if you take a look at this, there's nearly 10,000 co-locations that are not necessarily hyperscale that are helping, let's call it, balance all of these cloud workloads. Now, hang on a second, everybody. If you are on your Amazon shopping list, come on back here really quick, because I want to share some really interesting tidbits with you from a report. This is the AFCOM State of the Data Center report that was released, I'm looking at my calendar right now, January 31st, literally just a few days ago, about a week or so ago, and I'm going to share some really interesting findings. In that report, we asked the audience, the respondents, send this thing out to thousands of people. Are you seeing cloud repatriation happening within your environments, within your customer environments? All right, you ready? Drum roll. Here's the response. So they came back, and by the way, this is not the first time we asked this question. They came back, most respondents, about 71%, last year was a number that was just a little bit higher, are seeing a migration of workloads from cloud back to on-premise data centers or co-locations. And as a result, 71% see an increase in power demand, and 22% say that increase is significant. Now, before you jump onto your favorite social media platform and start saying that here, Bill Clayman is saying that the cloud is going away, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's a better balance of understanding what needs to live in the cloud and what needs to be living on premise, which is why this conversation around hybrid cloud is really, really important. And again, I want everyone to put a new hat on. Don't think about some of those legacy technologies that we may have deployed around hybrid cloud architecture. Let's focus on some of the new stuff that we're seeing out there and some of the both opportunities and challenges, let's be honest, around hybrid cloud. So what's really fascinating about this trend, and by the way, if anybody wants to check out the AFCOM State of the Data Center report, you're welcome to either ping me later on or find it online, because we actually went deeper into this question. We actually asked, well, what kind of workloads are you moving? Because that's actually really interesting as well. But you can see that many of these folks are seeing this kind of architecture, this migration be impacted by hybrid and multi-cloud design. So that was just the intro. Please, come back to me for a second. I know a lot of people like to have multiple screens while they listen to these podcasts and webcasts and so on. Come back to me for a second, because I'm going to share some really great strategies and considerations that I've seen and I've had a chance to accomplish. I've had this great opportunity to work with some really cool cloud virtualization data center technologies where hybrid cloud was a key focus. So we're going to jump into this. We're not going to spend too much time here because we've got a lot of great presenters coming up here just around the corner. So let's call this priming the stage. Let's discuss hybrid cloud. And this is not going to be an old school conversation. Like I said earlier, it's more focusing on some of the newer things that are happening out there and what's impacting today's hybrid cloud environment. So the first thing that I'm not going to do, and I know there's a bullet point here for it, is introduce hybrid cloud to you. Listen, you all know what it is. I do not want a whole group of virtual eye rolls happening. I know that's not an emoji yet, but we don't need to that. So you know what hybrid cloud is, right? The combination of public and private and the best of those two worlds. What I do want to talk about, please follow me. And if this is the one thing that you take away, this little gold nugget from this conversation, is A, the significance of the hybrid cloud, and B, how much it's changed. The evolution of this hybrid cloud, what we're seeing and what we're putting in there, and our understanding of cloud computing architecture in general. So hybrid clouds, today especially, are a perfect blend of scale, flexibility, cost efficiency, enabling different kinds of organizations, now much smaller ones as well as larger ones, to optimize what they're doing with IT and continue to drive operation while optimizing their cost. What's really fascinating here is our ability to leverage cloud resources on-prem while leveraging cloud resources for scale on demand, and our understanding around cost, scale, security, and much more. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Now, obviously, there's benefits, right? Agility, scale, cost benefits. We talked about that. And your capability basically to strategically adjust when you adapt to all these market changes. Now, That being said, there have been some evolutionary points, challenges, and opportunities in the industry specifically aimed at the hybrid cloud. So let's talk about those for just a second. One of the biggest challenges that I've seen in hybrid is kind of a double-edged sword, right? The good news is that we're seeing businesses grow and boom, more applications being deployed. The challenge is that there's more environments out there, and visibility across all those environments becomes challenging. Call it whatever you want. The swivel chair analysis, too many screens, admin fatigue, they all have names, but a lot of it is achieving this comprehensive visibility across different types of cloud components, which becomes challenging, and you do have blind spots, at the very least a sore neck from looking at all those screens. And the other challenge is this: over these last years, like right now, we have the capability to deploy things like generative AI within an on-prem ecosystem, as well as leveraging cloud resources. That's like the most advanced hybrid cloud you could work with at the moment. But in that sense, managing those diverse workloads and seeing across those ecosystems becomes a little bit challenging. There's other challenges that I've seen as well, things like integration, compatibility issues, where you have different platforms to ensure compatibility can become complex, which requires a unified monitoring approach to allow better visibility and allow for better workload management. Now, when it comes to actually leveraging the right kinds of tools, you know what real-time monitoring is. I'm not going to get into that. What I want to discuss a little bit is some of the new things that are coming out around real-time insights and analytics for different types of infrastructure components. So everything from on-prem, storage, compute resources, the network connectivity, the user experience and performance, the types of applications and workloads that are sitting in between it, and what you can ultimately do with all of those. From there, once you have a unified measuring, monitoring tool, you can do things like predictive analytics, which incorporate your capability to forecast potential issues. Now, there's another tool out there. We call them automated response systems, predictive responses, right? These are so much better than automated workflows. There is an advancement in our understanding of the data sets and what the issue might be, so that our automated responses, we can feel a lot more confident about letting that happen without the system going down, basically. Now, those types of automated response systems can react to monitoring alerts by executing very critical predefined actions to mitigate issues without any types of human intervention. An automatic load balancing, an application firewall kicking off, potentially optimizing a network pattern or traffic, or enabling a VLAN for a specific business component. Some of these things can be done autonomously when there is a trigger around predictive analytics. Now, when we start to take a look at real-time performance, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Now, obviously, we know it's important. I have a bullet point on there. You can all take a look at it. What I do want to focus is there's a conversation around key metrics and what's actually happening around those key metrics and identifiers. This is where we talk about the evolution. We've changed a little bit, right? We need those metrics from the tech part of our business, and as well as business leaders as well. And then we can actually look at the tools and platforms that we can use to leverage these KPIs, these key performance indices, these metrics to improve not just technology, but the business as well. Now, again, real-time analytics, super important, but it's those indicators, performance indicators and metrics, that's what's changed. And again, I really want to make sure people focus on that and have some takeaways. When we start to take a look at resource allocation in a hybrid cloud environment, it's really critical to look at how you effectively scale, dynamic scaling, obviously, but also allocate strategically all of those resources depending on cost. That's where we're going to pause here for a second, because we're going to discuss something really important: balancing costs and optimization across a really, really critical kind of environment. This is one of my favorite slides to understand strategic resource allocation and really what it means to be a much more mature organization when we look at hybrid cloud. All right, everybody, this is where we've become a more mature industry, let's call it, understands hybrid much more effectively. And this is where you can create more effective monitoring tools as well. First of all, FinOps, financial operations, is an entire new cloud financial management practice to align cloud investment decisions with business outcomes, ensuring cost-effective cloud usage. This is new. It's a new practice, but it's one that's really important to help identify cost drivers and implement good cost control measures. This is why we're seeing repatriation happening. This is why we're seeing a better balance between what's in the cloud and what needs to live on-prem. If this is a new term for you, FinOps, definitely research, because it is a critical measure and metric to help you create a much more robust and effective hybrid cloud ecosystem. Can't stress this enough. All right. We're almost done. We're almost about to pass it back to you so you can hear from the other really wonderful speakers here today. I do want to touch on security before we do wrap this up. A part of the challenge that we saw and we talked about earlier, right? With so much stuff, applications, workloads, resources, I don't want to get into it. We are seeing complexity, and that creates a security complexity challenge as well, where more protocols, access across different kinds of cloud environments can lead to potential vulnerability. So please try to keep an eye on that and ensure you try and keep complexity down to a minimum. Obviously, data privacy and compliance, where there's GDPR, HIPAA, PCI, DSS, any of these sort of compliance metrics, just know where your data is being stored and how it's traversing different WAN environments. And most of all, how you can meet regulatory compliance in requirements basically across different types of platforms, jurisdictions, and so on. And finally, making sure you maintain a consistent security posture. This is where a good unified monitoring platform can really help you out, because that way you have a unified visibility point and a good structure for security posturing. That's why it's important for you to keep an eye on a good unified security framework, being able to see and detect advanced threats, and regular security assessments, because listen, gremlins are always around, and it's really important for you to see what's inside of your environment, especially as hybrid cloud becomes more complex. So as a final couple of key points and takeaways, we talked about effective monitoring. Listen, this flew by. This was a quick little 12-minute little keynote. Talked about monitoring, optimization, advanced tools and metrics that we need to keep an eye on, the stringent security measures. We talked about optimization, the maturity of the cloud, understanding cost and performance balance, and now looking at things like FinOps. And obviously, like I said earlier, security recommendations, a unified framework, unified visibility across different types of ecosystems. And again, regularly conduct security audits, because it is absolutely critical. And on that note, I think that's all the time that I have. Find me on all of the interwebs. Find me on any social platform that you want right here. Listen, I want to continue this conversation. I'm a big fan of hybrid cloud. I want to know how you're using your hybrid cloud to impact both technology and your business, and to continue this conversation and this wonderful rest of this presentation. It's back to you.
And thank you, Bill. Isn't he awesome, folks? Always love hearing from him. He really set the table for us wonderfully. All right, we got a poll question for you, the first of the day, but certainly not the last. Let us know what your time frame is for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company. Is it happening now? Is it going to be happening later this year? Is it not happening at all? Well, let us know. Keep answering as we go forward here. I also wanted to announce that one of our attendees today, unfortunately, won't be eligible to win the Amazon gift card. That would be Ethel, who voted in the Super Bowl poll for the Cowboys. Okay, so as a lifelong and long-suffering Redskins/Commanders fan, I just had to take action when the Cowboys were brought up. So, you can understand that, right? No, I'm just kidding. Of course, Ethel. Happy to have you here, even though you seem to be a Cowboys fan. I won't hold that against you too much. All right, folks, let's get rolling with our sessions now. Why don't we? Batting leadoff today is Catchpoint. Presenting for Catchpoint are Mark Taller and Shri Sugarkar. Mark and Shri have been with the company for a while now and are going to be dropping some knowledge on us. I cannot wait to hear from them. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. I am going to turn this over to you right now.
Thanks very much. And thanks everyone for joining us today. As mentioned, my name is Mark Towler. I'm a product marketing director here at Catchpoint, and I'm joined today by our VP of product management, Shri Sugarkar, who will be giving a demonstration. What I want to talk to you guys today about is how you can use IPM to monitor hybrid cloud environments in order to not miss what matters most. And what is IPM? I'll get to that in just one second. Let's start with the one basic that we all should know and understand. The internet is your new network, all right? No one has a single network that is only theirs within the confines of their building, their office. Everything is outsourced at some level, all right? You're reliant on a variety of other cloud or other services that are out there in the network, which means you're reliant upon the internet, which is a problem because the internet is not only hideously complex, it's also incredibly fragile. And any of you who are working in IT ops know exactly what I mean by that. But we'll go into that in a second. You're providing some form of service or application, and you're absolutely focused on delivering that service. Everything these days is service-oriented, and everything is requiring, as we discussed, a whole bunch of different pieces of cloud and distributed networking in order to work. Well, one of the problems here is slow is the new down, all right? Even if everything is working, if it's very, very slow and someone's trying to get to your web page or get to your service or get to your application, and it takes 30 seconds to load that, they're not going to go to your application. They're going to go to your competitor. So you've got to be aware of what's going on in the internet, because your applications are fine. You've got them on a variety of different clouds, but everything's going to depend on the core services of the internet, that infrastructure that runs and connects everything. We're talking things like DNS or BGP, a variety of other bits and pieces on there that are making sure that everything can stay connected. As well, those networks have become much more complex over the last decade. IPv4, IPv6, the rise of SASE, things like Cloud Direct Connect, all of these are adding to complexity. And you're no longer just selling to people in New York or delivering applications to people in New England or North America. You've got users all over the globe, and they are dealing with their own local issues when it comes to infrastructure and access. All of this means you need some form of internet performance monitoring to ensure that your private cloud can access the public cloud and that everything is working well together. Let me give you an example here. And I'm not picking on CNN for any particular reason here. They're not necessarily a customer. We're just using them as an example. That blue dot in the lower right corner, that is CNN.com. You can see it on the inset here. That's just the web page. That is simply the web page. Now, in order for that web page to load and display to a visitor, every single one of these other little dots out here are things it has to touch in some way, whether it's making an API call, whether that's an ad loading, whether that's stock ticker, whatever it is. All of this has to be connected and has to touch in order for CNN.com to display properly. On the left here, you can see a fairly standard waterfall diagram, and this is just showing how long it takes for different elements to load. Obviously, this isn't all of them, and you can see some of them are a little longer, some of them a little shorter, and that's fine, but they all add up. And if at the end of the day, it's taking 30 seconds for CNN.com to load, no one's coming to CNN.com. They're all over at MSNBC or somewhere else. So this is where you understand, you can sit here and go, oh, I'm going to look at CNN.com, but it's so much more than just your stuff. Let's take a look at CNN in a more hypothetical distributed model. So that blue dot we're looking at, it's kind of more or less this stuff right here. You got your web servers, you've got your core CMS, there's some of the cloud, but then there's the SASE capabilities over there, your links to, say, stock tickers, your links to weather, and then you've got a variety of different users all over the place. You've got designers in LA, someone who's an editor in New York, users accessing from all over the world, and all of them are trying to get to this one area in the center. Complicated, right? It gets worse. Every single one of those connections is reliant upon the internet infrastructure underneath. So every single one of those connections requires a working ISP, a working DNS, and about 5 other things, which I honestly didn't include here because otherwise nothing would be visible underneath all of those little blue dots. This is just giving you an idea of how complicated things can get very, very quickly. And bear in mind, when someone like that tablet user on a yacht in the Pacific wants to go to CNN.com, if it doesn't load within 10 seconds, and he's making allowances because he's in the middle of the Pacific, he's going to be, no, forget this, I'm going to go check out what's going on Fox or MSNBC or any one of the other competitors out there. All right. So this is what CNN has to have working in order to display properly. And if they're only using application performance monitoring, this is all they can see. Their IT team is working on logs and traces to figure out infrastructure. There's no proactive testing. They've got limited visibility into third parties or what's going on with their SaaS and PaaS applications. They've got no view as to global or regional issues where things are, and they're only getting alerts if certain preset thresholds are triggered. That's fine, and this is where we talk about the difference between availability and reachability. Someone sitting in the center here can look at CNN.com and say, well, our web servers are working, our cloud connections are working, our CMS is working. Everyone should be able to get to it fine, but not necessarily, because there's all that other stuff they're not seeing. 80% of your issues are not happening in an area that is visible with APM. It's just that simple. And then that's not a hard number for sure, but most of your issues aren't happening here where you're visualizing it. You need some form of internet performance monitoring. Now, this diagram on the side, and yeah, I'm overwhelming you with diagrams, I get it. This is the internet stack, but it's the exact same thing we just looked at, just layered. You've got your applications at the top, there's your web page, all those media servers, cloud servers as well, and then all the various pieces underneath it that everyone has to travel to. Your users are down here under the network layer. This is the last mile. This is where the users are coming in. They've got to go through that layer, through the protocols, through the internet core, then through all the other layers to get to CNN.com. If you can only see the top couple of layers, you're missing where most of the problems are happening. What you want is something that will give you full visibility into the entire internet stack. So you can, and this is important, which is why I bolded it, monitor from where it matters, from your user's perspective. If you're looking from the top out, you can only see a limited amount and you don't have a good understanding of what your users are experiencing. If you're looking from the bottom in, then you can understand the experience of your customers, of your workforce, understand your application and network and website experiences, and understand them before they start impacting your business. So here at Catchpoint, we've got an IPM platform that provides a wide variety of capabilities, including things like analytics and visibility and access to our global observability network. But the main goal that we're trying to do here is provide solutions for different types of experience. Is your network working? That's the experience. There's hard details. You can sit here and say, oh, is my DNS upside? That's not the problem, all right? You're not walking into a dealership and saying, oh, I need, the pair of Goodyear run flats for my truck. It's like, no. You're walking in and saying, people can't get to my network. What is the problem? I need a full network experience solution. I need a truck, all right? Catchpoint's able to provide 5 different types of solution. One of them is network experience, and that's the one we want to talk about today. At this point, I'm going to hand things over to Shri, and he's going to walk through this and let me know when he wants to advance. So, Shri, do you want to take it away from here?
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I think a lot of customers we talk to, right, echo exactly what you said, right? Internet is complex, and how do we do that? And today's context is about the hybrid cloud. So I plan to do 3 things today. One is talk about a little bit about the customer journey when going to the hybrid cloud, related kind of use cases, and then follow that in the second section with a little bit of product overview, and then I will wrap it up with a demo. So beginning with the customer journey, what we have observed in our customer base is customers typically go through 3 phases when they are embarking on their journey to the hybrid cloud, right? So they typically are purely in on-prem environments, and they want to get to the cloud and hybrid cloud kind of scenarios, right? So the first thing that happens is vendor selection, because as you know, Mark, and we all know, right, there's a lot of cloud options out there, right? There is AWS, Azure, and Google are the top 3, and then there is a long tail with Oracle, IBM, and others, right? But you want the cloud that satisfies the performance baselines that your applications and your customers are looking for, or your employees are looking for, right? So that's the first step in terms of the selection of the best cloud vendor, right, that suits the application. The second thing is, as Mark mentioned, the private cloud and the public cloud, or the on-prem and the public clouds, are connected via the internet, right? And there are a variety of connectivity mechanisms, which include ISPs, Cloud Direct Connect, and whatnot, right? And how do you also want, in addition to making sure you have the best cloud option, you also want to make sure you have the best connectivity option, right? So related visibility into KPIs and troubleshooting during proof of concept, right? That's the first phase, vendor selection. The second phase, after you have selected a vendor or 2 for your hybrid cloud, right, from the cloud options available, you want to make sure you de-risk the deployment or rollout, right? Choosing AWS, moving workloads from on-prem to AWS or another cloud, your choice, right? So during that, what is extremely important, and as Mark pointed in the complex picture, right, there's ISPs, there is DNS, there's so many things involved, right? How can you do quick fault isolation, whether it is the on-prem or the cloud location, or is it something in the internet stack, right? Catchpoint provides that visibility. And in a moment, I think Mark will share one of the quotes we have from our customers, which directly addresses that, right? During rollout and deployment, you also want to make sure, right, you're moving from on-prem to hybrid, right? You want to make sure that the performance that you're offering to your customers and employees, right, is at least as good, or if not better, right, than what the current on-prem environment is offering, right? Once you have done the rollout and deployment, the third and the final phase is everyday operations, right? And how can you ensure the internet resilience with internet performance monitoring that Mark talked about, right? That involves visibility into different connectivity options, right, that we talked about already, right? And what we provide is proactive as well as real user monitoring in those scenarios with Catchpoint IPM solution. There's obviously the incident management and ensuring SLAs that your vendors are offering. Next slide, please. So to satisfy that customer journey, our network experience solutions provides 4 different use cases. We talked about vendor selection and management, right? There's also the network reachability, fault isolation, SASE and VPN monitoring, and these are some of the use cases. So next slide, please. So now moving on to a little bit into the second section, I wanted to talk about what are the products in our portfolio, right, that map onto some of those customer journeys and use cases that we talked about, right? We have an advanced network monitoring solution that I'm going to mention 3 key highlights here. First one is our traceroute monitor, is one of the best in the industry. It provides a variety of different traversal mechanisms such as quick, in session, and it also traverses through cloud environments. As you can see in the picture here, our traceroute monitor is able to identify ECN, which is explicit congestion notification information, right? Which is very important when your networks are congested and you want to identify that, right? And there's accurate ECN is one of the new standards. Our platform already supports accurate ECN as well. The second one is around real-time BGP monitoring. So we do have a network, which I'll talk about in a moment. It's a very differentiated geo-distributed network, and we get those BGP feeds in real time, giving you the information so that when your revenue is impacted and brand is impacted, right, you are not waiting for hours to find out the information, and at a glance you can quickly find out. Last but not the least, obviously sub-second ping helps you find micro outages. And again, slow is the new down, right? How can you help your customer and employee experience by identifying that? Next slide, please. As I mentioned briefly, Catchpoint prides itself in world's largest global observability network. And that, when coupled with, in a moment, I will show you the richness of the types of tests that can be run on our platform, gives you the ability to effectively go through your hybrid cloud journey through those 3 phases, right? Whether it is vendor selection or troubleshooting during deployment or day-to-day operations. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk about another new product that we introduced recently. Internet Synthetics has been around, where we allow you to monitor the internet stack by running proactive synthetic tests, whether it is for your workforce experience or customer experience, right? Whereas we recently introduced a new product called Internet Sonar, and that product is aimed at remember, Mark talked about the third-party services in the internet stack that you rely upon. So Sonar helps you identify when there is an incident. Is it me or is it one of the third-party services in that internet stack, right? So I'll show you a demo also in a moment, but if you could go to the next slide, Mark. Thank you. So this is a quick overview of the Internet Sonar product. It gives you a global view of the internet outages for a variety of third-party services. You remember the CNN example that Mark brought up, right? You're relying on so many third-party services, right? Whether it is the internet infrastructure, such as CDN, DNS, or cloud, or whether it is some API services for credit card payment or ad serving, et cetera, right? And it's a live view, as you can. I'll show you the live demo in a moment as well. But we detect outages for hundreds of services that are monitored on our platform, right? And the richness of the billions of tests that are running on our platform, and in real time analytics, right? We apply to those tests and identify which particular third-party services, and that leads to fewer war rooms and faster root cause, right? So with that, I think I'm going to quickly show a demo. So I'm going to begin by showing you the types of tests that we support on our platform. As you can see, there is a wide variety of tests like DNS, for example, and then we also have ping and traceroute tests from a network standpoint. Not only that, we talked about BGP and node-to-node tests, right? So a variety of tests from a testing in the hybrid cloud scenarios, right? This is a very relevant test. We call it node to node or a network mesh test. As you can see, you may have multiple data centers, some of them on-prem, some of them located within clouds in your hybrid cloud environment. As you can see, you can set up like connectivity tests for packet loss, latency, and jitter in your environment from those different data centers. And what it allows you to do is at a glance look at what is the packet loss. For example, this Bangalore to Sydney right now, those two data centers, I'm seeing a 33% packet loss, right? So giving you the ability to, at a glance, to see how your data center to data center connectivity in hybrid cloud environment is functioning, right? And the traceroute test, for example, is a very advanced traceroute monitor. It provides capabilities such as PathMTU, TCP-MSS, MPLS, as well as ECN and accurate ECN. And when you run the test to a certain destination, traceroute test, as you can see, we have a very rich set of monitors like ICMP, UDP, TCP. In session is something we innovated recently, and traceroute quick, obviously, we also support all of these monitors, right? So very rich set of functionality with the traceroute monitor. Now, Shri, what does it mean? You can set up the test, but how does it help us debug certain things? We talked about fault isolation, right? So for example, the same traceroute test right now, I'm in the smartboard and it is showing me that on the summary tab, we give an experience score. So at a glance, you can see whether it is a network problem or it could be on-prem cloud or the public cloud, right? You have the ability to see the network connectivity between the private cloud as well as the public cloud environment, right? So at a glance, giving you an experience score. And not only that, it also gives you key events underneath, right? Now, in addition to that, the traceroute monitor also allows you to see a hop by hop on the internet when your packets are traversing through multiple ISPs, as Mark was talking about, giving you the visibility into round trip time, like, and other aspects at each hop of that, right? So as I think Mark pointed, internet is complex in those slides, right? This gives you a product visibility into what that means from a hop by hop perspective, right? So very rich set of traceroute monitor. The other product which I mentioned about is the Internet Sonar product. And what you see in the spinning globe here is the outages that Catchpoint, the billions of tests running on the Catchpoint platform, have detected for certain services that you rely upon, right? And these services can be internet infrastructure services such as cloud and DNS, as you can see, Azure and AWS, for example. These could be your public clouds you are using for your hybrid cloud environments, right? DNS as well. And it gives you at a glance visibility. And not only that, this is great, it allows you to answer that question, right? Is it me or is it someone else, right? And at the same time, we have alerts and APIs using which you can integrate this information with rest of your system, right? So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mark.
Thank you, Shri. That was very comprehensive. We just wanted to let you know that we have a lot of customers who are using Catchpoint, and they're big names you'll recognize. A lot of them, we are central to their IT operations. Our top 7 customers generate a little over 2.1 trillion in revenue and represent almost 10 trillion in market value. Big deal. Let's get a little more personal. Here's Pete Charlton, who's Vice President of IT at TMNA Services. He says, Catchpoint super impressive. I found it to be wildly useful. It saved me a considerable amount of ghost chasing. It's excellent. I think it's a total game changer from what I've observed in my 25 years in IT for the desktop support space. So long story short, we have happy customers. Why? Well, because we do 3 things that no one else really does. We monitor from where it matters. All right. Remember, I talked about monitoring from where your users are all the way through the internet stack. We also monitor what matters, the specific pieces of the internet stack that are crucial. And we help our users catch issues before they become incidents. There's that proactivity. We make it easier to see when something's starting to go wrong. And this is the holy grail of IT, Stop it before it impacts your users. We are the market leaders in IPM. We pretty much defined this market segment. It's what provides internet resilience to our customers, which every business needs. I just showed earlier that APM just doesn't give you the visibility you need, and 80% of your issues are going to be outside of what APM can show you. And really, IPM is the only thing that can show you what's going to impact, what's impacting your business at every level, and market leaders are using it. So with that said, I know we've got some questions coming in. I'll get to them in 1 second. I just want to leave this up to say, hey, you want to know more about CatchPoint? You can see it in action at catchpoint.com/guided-product-tour, or you can just learn more about network experience solution at catchpoint.com/network-experience. And with that said, give us a second to take a look at some of those questions, and Sri and I will start answering them right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Hey, Mark, I love the line, slow is the new down. That is so true in this day and age. It used to be that it was not a big deal if things were moving slow, 20 years ago. Now it can be absolutely fatal if that happens. So while we prep some of these great questions we've got coming in for Mark and Sri, we've got the poll question up. Please let us know what additional information you'd like to have about the CatchPoint solution. Operators are standing by, as they say. Okay, I also want to remind you about the handouts. CatchPoint has a great solution brief available as a PDF download. Get it now while we go through those questions. Reminder that the handouts tab is right next to that questions tab in your webinar control panel. So Mark and Sri are on the line with us. Gentlemen, are you ready to get going?
Absolutely.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, first thing, first question from attendee. This is a really good one. Why does real-time BGP monitoring matter? I don't know which one of you wants to handle that.
I'll take that from a higher level. If you want to get into the details of how we do real-time BGP monitoring, I'd hand it over to Sri. But in effect, almost everyone else, and I'm qualifying that slightly because we're not aware of anyone else who's doing real-time BGP monitoring. That means that if you are looking at results from a BGP source, you're looking at information that is at least 5 minutes old, usually more like 15 minutes old. And real-time matters because, as you said, slow is the new down. Look at it this way. If you've got an issue and you know it's a BGP issue and you implement a fix, do you want to wait 15 minutes or even 5 minutes to see if that worked? Or do you want to be able to see that almost instantly and see whether or not that was the problem? Let me give you another perspective. According to Gartner, depending on the size of your organization, an outage can be costing you around $7,000 or $8,000 a minute. More if you're big, less if you're small. But if we figure about $7,000 a minute, do you want to fix that within 1 or 2 minutes, or do you want to wait 15? Or put it another way, do you want to fix your problem for the cost of a moped, or do you want to fix your problem for the cost of a Porsche?
Well, let me think.
That's why it's kind of important.
Absolutely. Okay. Sri, this one might be a good one for you because you mentioned this in your presentation. Is internet sonar, which you discussed, reliant upon the tests I've set up? What if I'm not testing some of those third parties?
Yeah, certainly. Internet sonar relies on different data sources. And some of the tests that we have set up, that is one of the data sources. So if customers tell us that they are interested in a specific service, we can certainly add tests for those. The second data source is we also use information, anonymized information from billions of tests that run on our platform. So there is a very good chance that the service that you're interested in is being tested in that second source, right? And the third source is we also look at the status pages from providers, whereby we can get information if a cloud provider in the hybrid cloud scenario is down, right? We get that information as well. So there's a very highly likely chance that your service you're interested in already monitored by Sonar, but we work closely with our customers. If some of the services are not present, they can be easily added as well.
Okay, great. And I think we have time to squeeze in one more quick question today before we let you both go. And I don't know who this would go to, so either one of you speak up. And the question is this: is AI going to simplify the internet or add more complexity? A nice simple one to end with today. What do you say?
Yeah, okay. Have we got another half hour prepared for the answer to this one? Um, I'm going to provide an unsatisfying answer because the unsatisfying answer is yes to both. On one hand, absolutely, AI is going to make everything more complicated. But to be honest, the internet is getting more complicated as we speak. There's always going to be complexity. AI is also being applied to narrow down that complexity and make it easier to handle. And I wish I could remember the Gartner report I read it in, but they did say one of the biggest things that's going to impact the average person in the near future is not ChatGPT or similar, AI stuff, but AI working behind the scenes. And in fact, I'll give you an example based on our internet sonar. Sri was just talking about how we're anonymizing all of the tests that our customers are using across the network to provide data for internet sonar. What that means is on a daily basis, we're talking millions of tests and billions of discrete data points. And Internet Sonar uses AI to an AI analysis platform to narrow all of that down, filter out the false positives, and come up with all those little dots you saw on the globe. It's going, hey, I've done 5,000 different data points, and I am pretty sure, and I'm actually certain that this service is out in these 4 areas. Everything can be drilled down into the original data, but we're making it a lot easier to do things like that. Another perfect example is and we didn't really show this, but we narrowed down experience scores into a really simple gauge on all of our smart boards. So for example, if you're using our customer experience solution, you have a smart board that will tell you, here's your customer experience score. And it's going to be out of 100, and it's going to be nice, simple, color-coded, and it's going to be a percentage. And it's an easy way to glance and go, oh, that's yellow or red. I've got a problem. I need to look at it. That's not just a guess. That's AI analysis that is being run on all of the different tests and all the different data points that you're applying to your particular customer base. So that's all going on the background, and it's making things a little bit simpler. And I've seen a lot of other AI solutions from similar vendors in the networking industry that are all aimed at making things easier to understand and giving a high level, here's what's important, or here's how to find the valuable stuff out of the chaff. But there's still a lot more chaff, and there's going to be a lot more going on constantly. So the short answer is it will make things easier. The long answer is it is going to add more complexity, but hopefully it's going to mitigate it. I will caution, and we've been saying this, and again, straight from Gartner's mouth in a conference in December, when it comes to AI, distrust but verify, and the devil is in the details. No matter what you're doing, you always want to be able to get at that underlying data to make sure that what AI is telling you is actually something that's accurate and that you can be backed up.
Great advice. Great advice, Mark. Thank you so much for that comprehensive answer. Well, we're going to have to cut you both loose right now. I did want to mention we've got more questions coming in following that great presentation, and the Catchpoint will be sure to follow up with all questions that we didn't get to today. So don't worry, folks, if your question didn't get answered during this session, they will be in touch. So, Mark and Sri, I just enjoyed this so much today, learning about Catchpoint and finding out what fantastic stuff you're doing. Thanks for being on.
Thanks very much for having us.
Likewise. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, folks. And with that, it is now time for our first prize drawing of the event. We've got 3 cards that we're giving away today, and the winner of the very first Amazon gift card is Al Giansanti from New Jersey. Congratulations to you, Al, and don't go anywhere. We will be in touch very soon about claiming your prize. And now let's move on to our next presentation in the EcoCast. This one comes from Commvault, and patiently waiting in the wings is Michael Schurit, a senior product marketing manager. Michael, it is great to have you here today. I am going to turn this over to you right.
Thanks, Keith. It's great to be here. Thanks for having us today. And I want to thank all of our attendees for joining the Commvault webinar, Monitoring Optimizing a Cloud Environment, 6 Tips and Tricks. So let's go ahead and dive into our agenda. First, we'll be talking about what the landscape looks like today. It's become a very, very difficult one. Next, we'll cover off on hybrid cloud challenges. Then we'll get into our tips and tricks around optimizing and managing. and then we'll wrap up and take any questions that we have from our audience. As I mentioned, the world has changed. The threat of ransomware is everywhere, including backup environments. It's not a matter of if or even when you will be attacked, but how long before you figure out it's happened. Also, the prevalence and pervasiveness of AI have brought about a significant shift. AI-driven attacks can be very sophisticated, so while it offers a tremendous opportunity, it also fuels the proliferation of these threats. Finally, data is distributed across clouds, regions, and applications. It's led to hybrid chaos, and ransomware thrives in this chaos. Gaps and complexities arise from the fractured tools many organizations use to safeguard their data. These are changes that impact your business. Adding more data security tools built on inadequate architectures makes data security prohibitively expensive, often forcing companies to choose between cost and risk. As companies tackle these challenges, they find that the status quo falls short. The existing tools trying to support critical practices in light of these shifts don't cut it. They don't match the vision around resilience in the face of attacks that the leaders we work with know their organizations want to achieve. The status quo falls short for a few reasons. First, tool sprawl makes maintaining a cohesive and reliable resilience practice impossible. The complexity of patchwork vertical solutions makes protection, especially across hybrid workloads, a monumental challenge, and those are the gaps for ransomware to thrive. The second area where we see it falling short is that many entrants like Rubrik and Cohesity that are appliance-based, even if they're virtually appliance-based, make securing hybrid workloads and recovering massive amounts of data inefficient and often impossible. To make matters worse, their limited hybrid support requires more tools for comprehensive coverage. And even then, there's no single way to view, secure, govern, and recover all your data. The result, they're expensive. Adding more tools built on inadequate architectures makes data protection prohibitively expensive, forcing enterprises to choose between cost and risk. Most of our customers have added this patchwork of tools over time. Now is the opportunity that they're taking to refresh their stack with a consolidated, unified, high security, low risk, low TCO approach. The conversation evolves around resilience. How do you stay resilient in these shifts and the challenges that they bring? This most often translates into avoiding downtime, especially since the cost of downtime is staggering. Some of the latest stats, $9,000 per minute, $450,000 per hour, and $87 million per year, are staggering. Given that, what does cyber resilience look like? It's not just about rapid and reliable recovery. After an attack, it's common to hear the question, do we have a clean backup? We believe this is the wrong question for today's threats. Instead, the question should be, can we recover within the business's time frame? Answering that question confidently shows strong resilience, and that starts before the attack and is an ongoing process across practices such as understanding your risk profile and improving your data security posture, ensuring readiness with early warning of attacks and ransomware infections, plus the ability to validate clean recovery points and test recovery before a cyber event. And then when it's time to recover, make sure you have bulletproof, predictable, frictionless recovery at any scale. In short, today you need an AI-enabled, cyber resilient platform that helps you manage risk, readiness, and recovery. Let's start by exploring what is going on in the market today. Hybrid cloud is top of mind for customers as they evolve their modern app and cloud strategies and consider how to evolve their businesses. While every company has a cloud initiative, the reality is that most companies are operating in a cloud environment, with data sources both in the cloud and on-prem, while the adoption of native cloud technologies and containers in the enterprise is increasing. While companies navigate these disparate environments, they are at increased risk from ransomware and cyber attack. Data in silos from the proliferation of apps, increasingly constrained IT resources, and growing use of cloud-native apps and containers that need to be integrated into their new environments. So while a hybrid cloud is fueling transformation, it's certainly not without its challenges. Data is in more places than ever, places you may not had to protect before, like SaaS applications. You have developers working with containers, data spread between on-prem applications and cloud apps, and initiatives to migrate to the cloud. And all the while, your data needs to be safeguarded. At the same time, bad actors have increased their efforts, and ransomware continues to trend in the wrong direction, introducing more risk quickly to your business. And lastly, the idea of doing less with more is familiar. Still, in a rapidly evolving business model, you are likely facing new challenges to controlling costs and reallocating your valuable time to higher value activities. In this era where change is happening faster than ever and the stakes are higher than ever, we see a meteoric rise in DPaaS, or data protection as a service, in our industry. But why? Well, for one, companies simply need to do more with less. They need agile solutions with simple management. They need flexibility for coverage at any phase of their journey, both now and in the future. And they need to carefully consider how to safeguard their environments and data against today's threats. And with that, let's take a look at how we can start to modernize and manage these environments. Bandwidth constraints is number one. Bandwidth constraints can be a significant challenge when backing data up to the cloud. Traditional backup methods can consume a large amount of bandwidth, slowing down other applications and impacting productivity. However, there are several ways to avoid bandwidth constraints during backup. One effective way to reduce bandwidth consumption is to use cyber resilience and data protection with advanced deduplication and compression. These solutions can decrease the size of the data before it is sent across the network, which can significantly reduce bandwidth usage. If you're running a legacy backup product, this is one big reason to modernize your solution. Many legacy products need built-in deduplication and compression, which can significantly slow down your backups. By modernizing, you can take advantage of these features and improve your backup performance. Next, consider air-gap ransomware protection, which safeguards your company's data across multiple clouds. SaaS-delivered protection can create secondary data copies in resilient, immutable, and isolated cloud storage. This approach ensures that data remains unchangeable, isolated, and swiftly retrievable in the unfortunate event of a ransomware attack. Air-gap ransomware protection provides an additional layer of security by creating a physical or logical separation between your production and backup data. This makes it more difficult for ransomware to spread to backups and ensures a clean copy of data is available for recovery. Air-gap ransomware protection is typically delivered as a SaaS solution that can protect both on-premises and multi-cloud data. This makes it a convenient and cost-effective way to protect your data from ransomware attacks. Some additional tips are: store your data in geographically separate locations from your production data, encrypt your backup data both at rest and in transit, and regularly test your solution, as many fail to do so. And finally, don't ever stop educating your employees about ransomware. All of these can help safeguard your data from ransomware attacks and ensure you have a clean copy available for recovery in the event of a disaster. Now we come to number 3. A comprehensive cyber resilience plan is essential for safeguarding your company's data across multiple clouds. An effective plan ensures that your data is protected against various risks, including hardware failure, software corruption, human error, and ransomware attacks. Here are some key considerations when developing a robust cyber resilience plan. Define clear recovery or RPO point objectives and recovery time objectives or RTO. Choose the proper backup storage for your workload and implement appropriate retention policies. These will differ based on your protection choices. You'll want to regularly test your plan, as many fail to do so due to time constraints. Make sure you make it a part of your policies. When possible, use a smart configuration wizard, and of course, store backup data offsite. You can help safeguard your company's data across multiple clouds and ensure that you can quickly and easily recover your data in the event of a disaster. Next, making data protection decisions with the broader business ensures a holistic and practical approach to safeguarding your company's data across multiple clouds. First, confirming that the business understands the risks and costs associated with data loss is crucial. Educating stakeholders about the potential impact of data breaches, regulatory penalties, and reputational damages emphasizes the significance of data protection investments. Secondly, backup parameters should be selected per compliance regulations and internal practices. Involving the business in decision-making processes around cyber resilience and data protection guarantees alignment with organizational policies and legal requirements. And finally, aligning the cyber resilience and data protection solution with the business's overall goals and objectives ensures these efforts directly contribute to the company's success. Prioritizing cyber resilience initiatives that support strategic objectives, such as improving customer experience or expanding into new markets, demonstrates the value of data as a strategic asset. By working with the broader business, you can ensure that your data protection strategy is effective and meets the organization's needs. Excuse me. Number 5 is unified management. You'll also want to avoid using many tools and platforms that create overly complex cyber resilience interfaces. A solution that operates through a single pane of glass dashboard protects all your workloads while your data security remains as efficient and as comprehensive as possible. A unified solution provides critical visibility with the ability to manage any data anywhere from one console. You can select SaaS and self-managed solutions if your strategy requires, and still enjoy industry-leading technology. You can get everything you need to modernize your cloud journey from a single vendor like Commvault. You can eliminate time-consuming and manual processes and multiple dashboard reviews with complete visibility across your environments. Save time, enhance security, and stay informed from anywhere. With Commvault, you can streamline and simplify data protection with unified management, real-time insights, and consolidated views of your data, all in one convenient location. And finally, being cloud ready means having the proper infrastructure, processes, and skills to use cloud computing. Being cloud ready is essential for businesses looking to safeguard their data across multiple clouds. As companies face rapidly growing data sets and evolving technologies, traditional backup methods must be revised. If a company isn't cloud ready, its backups can slow down or stop working altogether as it struggles to handle more data, users, and diversified environments. A cloud-based cyber resilience and data protection solution can help companies be more agile and responsive to changing data needs. With a cloud-based solution, companies can scale their backups easily, back up from multiple locations, protect from disasters, recover quickly, and make sure that they're complying with regulations. By being cloud ready, companies can take advantage of the many benefits of cloud computing and safeguard their data across multiple clouds. You won't have to worry about right-sizing your infrastructure because the backup system itself is elastic. It shrinks or grows as your needs do and is easy to implement. Be sure to implement a SaaS backup and recovery solution to protect both your on-premise and cloud workloads. In summary, when monitoring and optimizing your cloud, Commvault Cloud offers the best, most comprehensive data security, unifying how you safeguard all of your data. No matter where it is or where it lives or where you want to recover it, you get this in one single powerful cloud. We offer the fastest recovery to accelerate rapid, clean recovery at an enterprise scale. And we do it with the most intelligence, deploying advanced AI capabilities to strengthen and speed up your resilience practice, all in one platform built for the hybrid enterprise. And with that, we'll close out our presentation, and I see we have some questions. So why don't we go ahead and field those? The first question is, how can AI help with managing our environment? That's a great question. Today, you really need an AI-enabled cyber resilient platform that helps you across these areas that we talked about, like risk, readiness, and recovery. These will help your organizations do things like quickly gather forensics, run a practiced playbook that's in place, create a safe, secure, and scalable clean room with the required infrastructure to recover your apps and data, determine a safe recovery point where you're confident your data is free of ransomware, and convert your source data to match your clean room infrastructure. You can then scan recovered data to ensure that it's malware, IOA, or IOC free. Thank you for that question. Can you give us some examples of some significant downtime and their costs? Yeah, I'm happy to. There have been a few that have been in the news in recent years. Back in March 2015, Apple lost almost 25 million over an outage lasting 12 hours. In August of 2016, Delta lost almost 150 million during 5 hours of downtime. And in March 2019, Facebook had a 14-hour downtime, costing them nearly $90 million. So big outages there with some large consequences. And finally, our last question is, how does Commvault manage its security? Commvault Cloud maintains a multi-layer approach to security. We start with partnering with Microsoft Azure to build a robust, highly secure and performant platform with a broad global presence. Azure provides hardened, redundant data centers with state-of-the-art physical and digital controls, and also maintains dozens of certifications, including FedRAMP High, across all Azure regions in the US. Commvault Cloud is built on Commvault technology, which is proven to be highly secure in enterprise and government environments. Also, capabilities such as role access control, auditing, integration with customer-owned authentication, technologies like SAML, and encryption of all intra-service comms and data during transmission ensure the customer data is handled securely. Additionally, all backup data is compressed, duplicated, and encrypted by default from the source on the network and at rest during AES 256. Multiple keys are used, so if the compromise of any single key, this will not expose any data. Compression and duplication also obfuscate data, providing additional security if the backup storage is compromised. And I believe that is all the questions that we had come in. So again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time, and I'll hand it back over to Keith.
And thank you, Michael, for that presentation. What a thorough overview of what Commvault is doing these days. We appreciate your feedback now on additional resources you would like to see from Commvault. Please let them know in that poll question you see up there right now. I also want to remind everyone about the handouts. We've got a link from Commvault to their hybrid cloud buyer's guide. That is hot off the presses, folks. So get it now as you continue to vote. Thanks so much for responding to the poll. This is important to us and to the company. I'll leave it up here for another moment, and then we will move on to our next presentation. So, Michael Charette, thank you so much for your time today, for being here with us, for educating us again on what Commvault is up to and some of their latest innovations. And we are about to move on to our next session, folks. Thank you for sticking around, and remember to be asking questions during all of these presentations. Even if yours doesn't get asked during a session, during a Q&A, all these vendors will be following up with you to make sure you get any questions or concerns that you have answered. So with that, why don't we get going? Time for our next presentation in the EcoCast. This session comes from Dynatrace, and presenting for Dynatrace is Ashley Adams, Principal Product Marketing Manager. It is great to have you here today, Ashley. Are you ready to go?
I am ready. Thank you so much.
Outstanding. I am going to turn the floor over to you then right now.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for logging in and joining this session. As he said, my name is Ashley Adams. I am a Principal Product Marketing Manager focused on Dynatrace's infrastructure observability pillar. And today, I really am super excited to talk about some of the recent things that Dynatrace has announced, but really in the context of what optimizing a hybrid cloud environment looks like. And to start this off, I thought it would be great to maybe take a step back for a little bit and actually set the context of why we are interested in coming to webinars and educational forums to talk about this subject in the first place. And I think when we set the context of really where do you start on that cloud transformation, business transformation journey, one thing that we know from our customers, from you all, is it really starts with tool sprawl. And where does that come from, and how we can better help you all to innovate. So with that, few stats. We know that dynamic multi-clouds are truly the platform of choice. I'm sure many of you on the call can relate to this. You're probably leveraging a hybrid cloud environment of your own, whether you've started off on-prem, are using Kubernetes, leveraging hyperscalers in some sense, whether that's Google, AWS, or Azure. 86% of organizations are using cloud-native technologies and platforms such as microservices and containers. So what does that kind of mean? What does that do in terms of setting the stage for how we can better organize our environments? Well, we have to think about what the complexities that this causes, right? So number one, we would say that everything is really dynamic and containerized, creating complexity and scale that's far found beyond what we are used to in an old school, purely on-prem, or even in a managed data center world. Secondly, we all are very much aware that we are increasing volume and variety and velocity of data, right? So today we know that what we're looking at is hard to be managed by dashboards alone, or the manual labor that might go into looking at that level of increasing volume and increasing data. Third, just accelerating the frequency of change, new innovations that are available to us. It kind of can strain the old approaches to monitoring, and why we talk a lot about observability, how we manage our own release and change management processes, and then how we look at and focus on security, and so much more. Fourth, Apps are more important than ever. So as every business strives to become a bit more digital in this world, businesses and their customers depend on the full software stack to work flawlessly. That's one of Dynatrace's goals. We say we want to live in a world where software works perfectly. I think everybody can relate to times when you have quote unquote rage clicked because something didn't work. That's a very frustrating experience in a checkout process online. But what we're trying to strive for is how we can manage those applications so they work every time. And of course, resources remain limited. So while we have all of this increasing complexity and troubleshooting, we're stealing away time from innovation. And resources can mean any number of things, whether that's just budget constraints or actual people that are hired. If you've got people working on things like outages, they're probably not focused on the innovative reasons why you've hired them for your business. So the situation puts us in a place where organizations end up having many tools, but still these finite resources. And what we've really come to look at through lots of customer conversations, hundreds of different customer conversations, is that organizations sometimes choose to only monitor their critical functions. And maybe that's due to cost. Maybe they'd like to expand their footprint with a particular vendor, but they can't make it work for whatever reason, whether that's too expensive or the buy-in to add another tool is too much overhead and the training that it might take to bring your team on along with it. But the competitive market pressure that's out there on pricing results, we're always being asked to do more with less, right? Sometimes forces organizations to buy too many low-cost tools, or we see a lot organizations who have developers build their own in-house tools, and they don't bring the same value add that you would expect out of maybe a larger, more robust platform. So this now results in your teams looking at multiple sources of truth. And as we will discuss later in this presentation, I'm kind of teeing it up here. Sometimes basic monitoring on hosts is enough. And looking at where you can right size your environment can be a great way to optimize your hybrid cloud environment. So again, I'm a visual learner. I'm sure most of us are. I think it's nice to put a diagram to what a potential environment can actually look like. So when we say tool sprawl and we fix it with tool consolidation, for example, that can be a phrase that is an industry term or a buzzword, and we kind of understand it, but what does that really mean? And I think this is a good way to visualize what that looks like. Perhaps you've got your branch office, which maybe started out as an on-prem location. Maybe you're storing some data in data centers that are most likely spread out geographically. You are most likely leveraging the cloud in some way, like I said before, with hyperscalers, and also the influx of applications up in the cloud, in SaaS, software as a service platforms. And imagine that each one of these little icons and lines that we're showing here are attributed to a different vendor. So not only do you have a complex environment, but you have different vendors monitoring and observing that for you. And what we know happens with that is when you are trying to serve your end customers, trying to leverage the best benefit you can out of your partners, as well as try to maintain and manage your own employees internally. When you've got these kind of different vendors spread out, it leads to information silos. So people are looking at different sources of truth, different dashboards that aren't speaking to each other, which we know then causes a lot of manual root cause analysis. So when one tool says that everything is green and sunny and another one is flashing red, at that point, who do you trust? You know, is it a false alarm, or is it something that needs to be taken action on right away? That, of course, can lead to poor service delivery. If your team is working on things like that, they're probably not on top of what it looks like to deliver the SLOs or SLAs that you've committed to, which is why we talk about high risk and cost. On two fronts, right? If you have your SLOs and SLAs that are being missed because you're spending time on outages and downtime, that's going to incur fees, of course, but also high risk. Under-monitored or non-monitored hosts can really lead to security breaches and hacks. You're leaving yourself open for vulnerabilities in that sense. And then last, sometimes we don't think about what it means for a truly morale factor. Low productivity between the teams. If they're spending lots of time in war rooms, then it's very difficult to keep the spirit up. You might have teams pointing fingers at each other. A lot of times we hear stories from customers where it's one team trying to defend themselves from another team, whether that's network or systems or database. I'm sure you've all heard that at one point or another. So when you want to retain the best in talent, the best in class for your organizations, having one source of truth to really look at for true end-to-end visibility can be very helpful. So again, it's always nice to attribute a few statistics to what we found here, and knowing from the DevOps side specifically, this comes from Forrester, a leading IT analyst. DevOps silos and efficiencies are impacting organizations, and kind of everything I just mentioned in terms of the fragmented teams, overhead, and complexity results in 47% lost productivity spent on outages alone. So almost half the time going towards outages versus, things that you would actually want the team to be focused on. In terms of a dollar or a euro amount in this case, manual root cause analysis and all of the guesswork that goes into trying to get to that mean time to resolution is 7.5 million euros a year. That's the average cost in a year that's due to unplanned downtime. So of course, that's leaving money on the table. And when you have DevOps teams that struggle to get ahead and they can't focus on innovation, moving the business forward, cloud migration and business transformation, that's 53% lost revenue. So pretty big numbers when you look at them on that scale. So what are the approaches to the modern complexity cloud wall then? You could either kind of keep the status quo. You hope that the old tools that you have that were maybe built for an older generation of technology will keep up, but likely most of you are not into that approach, as you are here hoping to learn a little bit more today. Secondly, the do-it-yourself approach. This really relies on you to fix your own problems. The use of best-in-class developers to leverage some open source, hope that they'll be able to scale your observability platform, but it does become very complicated and time-consuming. Or you can choose to leverage a platform, something that is more designed to scale and to complement these modern multi-cloud environments. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more today. When you go for the do-it-yourself multi-tool approach, it can seem like a potentially cost-effective solution in the beginning. But when you look at all of the kind of steps that go into making that happen for your organization, you're thinking about how do you gather all the data that you need and how much it requires scripting and configuring and different special tooling. And then getting all that data into one big data repository. If there's no context and it's just data, you've got a lot of information there that's very hard to parse out. Third, you'll want to continually figure out the relationships, your baselines, your problems and patterns. That's organizing the data. Takes a lot of manual learned time. And then once you do have those alerts set up, how can you continually adjust those baselines or try to fit in a correlation engine? You want to suppress the noise. This is where we talk a lot about alert fatigue. And when teams, are responding to things that, maybe the baseline has shifted over time and is now no longer cause for alarm. And then, of course, you want to scale your system, scale your business as a whole. So more apps, new dynamics, new technologies. Hopefully you're getting more massive data flow, new relationships and baselines to look at as your business continues to grow. But how do you scale that model over time and efficiently? And then, of course, lastly, thinking just about building dashboards and adding reporting engines. As we know, many people in the IT management fields or C-level suite love to see reports of what's happening in their system today. So what if we could take all of that and put it into a more automated and intelligent platform approach? That is kind of what we like to think about in terms of what Dynatrace can offer. Gathering all that data automatically that requires no scripting or configuring, building all of that big data into a repository that has continuous analytics for context, So being able to see a variety of data in ways that will make sense for you and your teams. And then data that's automatically organized for you. So now it has self-learning relationships, baselines, and patterns to follow. Getting some of that noise suppressed automatically without having to go in and make manual adjustments, really being able to see truly issues that impact a service and also offer precise root cause detection. And then, of course, to be able to web scale by design, you want to effortlessly support more applications, new technologies. Like we said, make sure that you're on the forefront of innovating and scaling your business. And with that, receiving some out-of-the-box dashboards and reporting. So customizable, also secure with permissions, of course, so that you've got the right people looking at the right information at the right time. And what we decide to say is that that helps you with very low effort, best-in-class true observability with more immediate time to value. So that's where your teams can focus on innovation and driving better business outcomes. Now, if we take a moment and just remember what that extremely complex diagram looked like, what it's really trying to illustrate is what the processes that your business goes through every day, from the front end and the customers that you're trying to serve in any vertical, really, whether that's healthcare, retail, IT, different business relations, banking. There is some level of what happens on the front end from the customer level all the way through the application layer, down through the infrastructure layer, and of course with security layer as well. And what we know about real end-to-end infrastructure observability landscape and objectives is that it would be amazing if you could consolidate where you have true full stack observability from tier 1 all the way through tier 3. But what we're trying to look at a little bit more, and what we've been excited to announce, is how to right-size that across an environment. The benefits that you get from having unified observability and consolidating your workflows and costs with tool investment can lead to some great impact. So across the bottom there, right out the gate, all of the things we've just talked about today, reducing major outages and degradations by 60%, and then reducing that mean time to recovery by 90%. Those are huge stats that adds money back into your pockets. You'll have better and more increased productivity among the teams. You're able to do more with less. One thing that we hear quite often is the complexity in licensing models. Many people leave money on the table simply because they are auto-renewing tools that maybe they are underutilizing, or even worse, not utilizing at all. How many of us have been a part of a business acquisition where potentially teams and tools from the legacy business have been brought into the new business, and whether they're talking to the vendors and tools that you're using today or not, it could just be leaving money on the tool in terms of money on the table in terms of licensing costs. So all of this will, of course, help with that better business agility and then your ability to scale your team and your business. But as I mentioned, biggest isn't always best. So choosing the right vehicle for the workload is quite important. And if you have really critical tier 1 applications, hosts that you want the full stack of observability metrics on, with traces and digital experience monitoring and application security as well, for example, Dynatrace offers the trusty 18-wheeler that you might need to do that. But you probably have some applications, thinking back to what your own customer diagram looks like, where you might need a tier 2. This is a little bit more detailed in the hybrid cloud performance area, where you want some analysis of those hosts, their services and containers, but doesn't require the full stack of all the bells and whistles that come with tier 1. And then lastly, sometimes basic monitoring is all that's really needed, that you want to provide the confidence that your hosts, your storage, and your services are available. And sometimes a trusty pickup truck will do the job. So we were super excited this year to announce at Perform, our customer conference just a few weeks ago in Las Vegas, that we have released a new one agent mode. So this is called Foundation and Discovery. And if you're familiar with Dynatrace at all, you know that we have a couple other one agent modes, and I'll show you a comparison chart here in just a moment. But what's really amazing is we've capitalized on what already works great for customers, which is click to code infrastructure visibility for apps within full stack mode. But now look across the rest of your environment and see where we can right size that for you. And we also have an application that helps you to do that, which is pretty amazing. Quick feature overview. Of course, these will be available for you all, and I encourage everyone to take a look at our website. We've linked the link there in the handouts as well. So full stack, if that looks like, you know, kind of all the check boxes there from everything that you're interested in, whether it's topology discovery all the way down through disk analysis, memory analysis, tracing and profiling, what have you, that is at the higher end of 8 cents per hour per 8 gigabyte host. And then infra is at the 4 cent mark. And we're so happy to now introduce Foundation and Discovery at 1 cent per hour per host. So you can see it is that topology. It goes into your information, context, and analysis, where you can see what's happening in your environment, really know what's happening with your host criticality, but also give you that basic monitoring, host health, file system monitoring, OS services monitoring, for example, at a more cost-effective price. And like I said, we launched in concurrence with this a discovery and coverage app. So what this will allow you to do is not only take into consideration where you might have under-monitored or non-monitored hosts, you can connect your clouds, look at all the cloud integrations, and discover host candidates that need to be looked at further. Install the one agent so that now you have everything in our Smartscape topology, which is a fabulous mapping feature. I will say, if there's anything of interest here, we're more than happy to set you up with SEs and have demos. We love to run POCs, so don't hesitate to reach out. And then thirdly, it applies those recommendations. So it applies the recommended Dynatrace features based on your topology. And just to show you what that looks like a little bit, I know the pictures are small, but in the first image there, you can see where you can connect all your clouds. So it will kind of list all those out for you. The second image, it will identify those hosts without a one agent on them today. So you can kind of see where things live or where things might have been missed for any one reason or another. And then third, it will provide the best practice monitoring recommendations. So you can see on the bars there, it will kind of give you an idea of what is the criticality of this host and what category should it be in. Foundation and Discovery is one thing that we wanted to introduce because it opens up the use cases for other deployments like security, like logs, for example. So today, where you might be running things like security in a full stack mode, we now have the ability to look at the environment as a whole. You're not leaving yourself vulnerable to open breaches, hacks because of unmonitored or non-monitored hosts. And it just at that price can help you to close those gaps in your environment, helping you to obviously better optimize your hybrid cloud environment. Few other cases that we make for Foundation and Discovery. Again, we've talked about the extending your application security coverage. That's number one, making sure you're secure in your business. But number two, we have a really amazing customer, Lloyds Bank, who is making an effort to calculate their carbon footprint. And today, if you were trying to calculate the carbon footprint across your entire estate, it would be very difficult to do that if you were doing it manually or individually for, let's say, tens or maybe even hundreds of different vendors and tools. When you are consolidated on that one end-to-end observability vendor, you're able to do something like that and reach toward a very admirable goal. Thirdly, ingesting logs easily on edge systems. So couple examples here. We know of a European grocery retailer who was using Dynatrace in many instances, but then also wanted to deploy them on their point of sale systems. However, they didn't want all of the super complicated metrics to follow all that. It was just some simple log ingest data they were interested in, and being able to opt in for that price was extremely helpful. Something else I've heard in the past is customers who are interested in things like being a supply chain retailer, that they had warehouses spread out over hundreds of different locations in all over the country. And they had in each of those warehouses, thousands of cameras that were there for security reasons. The simple ability to monitor whether those were off or on, very simple metric, right? But extremely valuable. That adds value to their business, but can be done in a way that makes sense for them now. And of course, we know that doing things like extending CMDB coverage is huge. Dynatrace loves to offer its many extensions. In this case, we have an extension with ServiceNow. So just to kind of wrap up a lot of the points we've said, it's been a lot of information, but the idea here is that, even further than dashboards, what's more important about having the true end-to-end observability with one consolidated vendor can give you a lot of benefit, not only economically, but for security reasons as well. So looking at that second image, making sure you're on top of your application security throughout your organization at a way that makes a cost-effective difference is key. Return on investment. So the money and the investment that you all spend in choosing a vendor, choosing a tool, choosing a platform to help you optimize, to help you further lift and shift from where you might be today, where you see yourself going on that cloud migration journey, and help you to better transform your business into a digital world, all comes into play. And having the ability to sort of see across your entire environment and gain insights from one tool can be very beneficial. And then lastly, like I said, what that does to impact your actual organization. When you've got teams that are speaking the same language, looking at the same things, looking at one single source of truth, it can cause a lot of great collaboration between teams that make you an attractive workplace. So next steps, we're always around. I like to offer myself up as well. Like I said, I'm a product marketing manager, but we love to hear from you all. So seeing is believing. Of course, we invite you to go deeper with our team. We have architects, solution experts, and tech leaders available to you. Of course, test drive it out, prove it in your environment. It takes just a few minutes to set up, and you can actually experience what a POC looks like, or a free trial for you. Certainly happy to start working together and hope that you see gained value there. Our customer success team is fabulous, and we hope that you see rapid time to value. And of course, like we mentioned so many times today, it's all about scaling, right? So transforming faster, easier, and smarter with the proven metrics and continuous value. And with that, I think we'll go to some Q&A.
All right. Thank you so much, Ashley. What a great presentation. I love that. I also really enjoyed the announcement here, the foundation in discovery. I mean, that's kind of a price point that almost anyone can afford. And you do actually have a free trial of that. And there's a link to that in the handouts. So those are the, price is always going to be a concern for every environment, no matter how big it is. And so having those options is so nice to have. I think we have got time for maybe to squeeze in a couple of quick questions here. So here is one that we have that just came in. Someone wants to know about adding services with a la carte pricing. Is that something that Dynatrace offers at the moment?
Trying to think what exactly that's hitting on. We can always take a look at what that might look like for your environment specifically. So happy to get in touch.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's one of those. It depends, right? Let us know. We'll get back to you. Okay, and finally, is this something that can be run in a managed environment? That's a really important question.
Absolutely. So Dynatrace does kind of pride itself on being able to meet customers where they are. Like I talked about quite a bit in the presentation, we know that people are on that cloud migration journey. You might be in any one step of that. We have managed customers as well. This did just launch just 2 weeks ago, and it is for our SaaS customers only. However, it is on the roadmap to be launched for managed sometime before the first half of this year. So stay tuned for that.
All right. Well, that is great news and fantastic to hear. Okay. Well, I want to point out that we have many more questions than we can get to today, but that you and Dynatrace, I imagine, will be following up with everyone. So if you have asked a question, do not fear. You will be hearing from them soon. Ashley, again, I want to thank you for being here today and for all of the great learning that we had. Thanks for letting us know what Dynatrace is doing.
Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Okay, everyone, the poll question is up now about Dynatrace. Let us know what you'd like to see from them on their solution. And while you continue to vote there, I want to list our next Amazon gift card prize winner. Mark is already asking about that. So we do have one ready to go. And the winner of the next $300 Amazon gift card is Bilal Zuberi from Texas. Bilal Zuberi from Texas. Congratulations to you, Bilal. We will be in touch very soon about claiming your prize. And we are going to move along now. Everyone, it is time for our next presentation in the EcoCast, and on deck right now is Nasuni. Presenting for Nasuni is John Capello, the VP of Strategy and Field CTO. So he obviously has great knowledge, and I can't wait for him to share that with us. John, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today. I am now going to turn this mic over to you. You can take it and run with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone at Actual Tech, for this this great opportunity for us. Again, my name is John Capello. I'm VP of Strategy and Field CTO here at Nasuni, and I am going to talk a little bit about the Nasuni File Data Platform, and in particular, to try to put that in the context of how you think about a hybrid cloud environment, particularly from the storage perspective, because that's really where we come from it. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here just going over 4 things. One is an overview of Nasuni. But then I want to talk about some of the best practices that emerge from Nasuni as a platform, the things that we do as a product that we've put a lot of time and effort into creating as part of our product, which I think you can use, not just with Nasuni, but when evaluating other types of products as well. And so for us, these kind of best practices come down to using core edge models. I'll talk a little bit about what I mean by core edge model and about how that can simplify hybrid cloud management. Next, I'll talk about ecosystem integrations, particularly for best-in-class monitoring. You just heard a great presentation from Dynatrace. They're certainly best-in-class when it comes to monitoring as well. But I want to talk a little bit about how to think about monitoring in a broader context, and in particular, how Nasuni does that with some other technologies. And then finally, something I really want to emphasize here, which is not just for Nasuni, but when evaluating any kind of hybrid cloud product. It's about looking for something we'll call security by design, but not by necessity. And what I mean by that is evaluating products based on whether or not they were designed to have security in them from the very beginning, whether security was something that was part of the initial architecture of the product versus adding on security afterwards. And I'll talk about 2 particular things that you can look for when evaluating hybrid cloud products and things that you can do into your hybrid cloud environment to make sure that security is there from day one. Hybrid cloud environment makes it even more important to make sure that security is embedded into everything that you do. And there are a couple quick tricks on how to make sure that that happens. So let me start with Nasuni as an overview. So we're a 15-year-old company, and we are a hybrid cloud storage company. We've been doing it for quite a while now. You get a sense of some of the customers that are Nasuni customers. They are from many different verticals, everything from gaming like Electronic Arts to retail like J.Crew to very, very large oil and gas companies like BP, healthcare companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield. We're really happy to be the chosen platform to store data. And that data is not just stored inside of the traditional data centers, but it's also leveraging public cloud in many of these cases. Hundreds of petabytes are stored on Nasuni volumes every day. We have exabytes of data that flow throughout the system across many, many global edge locations. And that's one of the big things to know about Nasuni is that we are a true global solution, a global file system, if you will. You store things on us, and then it can become available wherever you can put a virtual machine. As a company, we're really proud of our 89 NPS score and our very high Gartner Peer Insights. And you can find us in pretty much any of the major cloud marketplaces, as well as a fully on-premise solution as well. So thinking about Nasuni, I'll just spend a couple of slides kind of giving you the overview here. Really think about the fact that the cloud promises, and when we think about hybrid, thinking about how the cloud promises things like operational excellence. It promises scale. It promises the ability to access a level of durability of your data that you normally wouldn't be able to get on premise. It also gives you access to a cost structure and a cost curve that you probably have not had access to. The ability to store data, particularly when it comes to something like object storage, at a price per terabyte, price per gig per month as well, that is not really comparable online or comparable on premises. But at the same time, as many of you know, working, looking at a hybrid cloud environment, you want local control, you want security, you want local performance. And so it's these two worlds coming together of, trying to get the scale and the durability and the operational excellence of the cloud, but not wanting to give up user productivity, local performance, or having control over that security perimeter, making sure that you can control where your data is and how it's being managed. And with Nasuni, we provide that because our file data platform is built so that it can be scalable. It's built in with data security. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But it's also designed to have performance at the edge while being able to consolidate data into a core. I'll talk about that a little bit more as well. Inside of us, we've got the scale of a no limits, easy to manage object storage. So it's a global file system built on object storage. Again, this is the way in which we're storing your data so that your data, the persistent gold copy of the data, exists in objects. But it's being accessed from the edge. It's being accessed from virtual machines that present out the file system to the end user. So from an end user's perspective, they're accessing what typically would have been a NAS device, a NetApp or an Isilon or a Windows file server. It looks just like that from the end user perspective. But in the back end, what's happening is that little cache device is communicating with your object storage. The object storage is the gold copy, but it's a cache copy on the edge that that's being accessed. We also have built in this ability to create infinite immutable snapshots. In the traditional enterprise world, when you think about snapshots, you think about, I have created a gold copy of data on some storage technology, and then I apply this other system on top of it to protect it, and then I create that copy of that data, and I put it somewhere else. In our world, we actually look at it as one unified system, and we look at it all as being protected and to being backed by objects. So not only is the global file system the copy that you access based on object storage, but all of the immutable infinite snapshots are also stored as objects as well. So we've got scale, we've got security built in as well, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. And again, we've got the edge piece. So let me go to that first point. What does it mean to have a core edge model? And what does that mean to be able to simplify management? So again, it's a global file system based on object storage. And what that means is that every time I create a file, that file is going to get stored as an object. But it means a little bit more than that as well. Every time I create a file inside of a folder, that folder structure is also going to be created as an object. So I'm creating a file as an object, I'm creating a folder as an object. And every time I want to change something into that file, I don't necessarily have to change all the objects in that file. Maybe that file is made up of 5 objects or 6 objects, depending on how big that file is. And the change I make is only happening in one of those objects. Well, one of the great things about our system is that when you make that change, you don't have to rewrite all of those objects. In fact, one of the great advantages is that you've got chunks that will never get rewritten. So the global file system, all built on top of object store, and those the object stores that you can use for a Nasuni volume are the object stores that you have access to in your cloud accounts. So you have an AWS account and you are a Nasuni customer and you want to create a new volume. Well, the first choice you have is, which object store do I want to use? Do I want to use my AWS account for it? Do I want to use my Azure account? Do I want to use my Google account? Do I want to use one of my on-prem object stores? And the beauty here is that you're leveraging your own account and you're leveraging the object storage from that cloud provider. So I can use my S3 bucket to store all of my data. And that gives you the ability to also leverage all of the other things that come with object storage data, including all the tiering policies, including all the durability policies. One of the great things about moving to the cloud is now I get to take advantage of all of the ways in which they have built out their systems, particularly storage systems, for durability, availability, and for price for performance. So one of the great things is that if I choose something like in let's take Azure for example, and let's say ZRS zone redundant storage. If I choose that as the tier of object storage that I want, that means every time I write to that container, I'm going to create 3 copies of my data across 2 to 3 different buildings within a zone of data centers. And with a single configuration change, I can turn that ZRS into a GZRS, which means that not only do I get 3 copies, but now I get an additional 3 copies in a different data center. Now, if you were setting this up today using just your own on-premises technologies, that would cost a lot. It would cost a lot to be able to put data in one location and then have it geo-replicated to another location hundreds or thousands of miles away. But leveraging the core, leveraging something like Azure Blob Storage or AWS Storage or Google Cloud Storage, you have the ability to get the durability just with a simple configuration. So now your file system, which before was something you had to manage on-premise, now it's actually built on top of object storage, and you get all the benefits of that kind of durability. You get all the benefits of the geo-redundancy. In addition to that, you get the advantages of the tiering policies there as well. So now I can say, look, I want my data to live for, let's say, 30 days on the hot tier. And then after 30 days, I want to move it to these other colder tiers. One of the great things about Nasuni is you can take advantage of that from day one. As soon as I start pushing my data into the object storage of choice, I can take advantage of that tiering, which means I can take advantage of the lower prices that immediately get applied to the data that I don't use. So I can start tiering that data down to the lower tiers. And one of the great things that's happening right now inside of our industry is that these cloud providers are competing against one another for more economical forms of storage. So what we see is everything from AWS and introducing something like Glacier Instant Retrieval, which has a great performance profile and a great cost profile associated with it. And then Azure responding with their cold storage. And Google's been ahead of all of them with nearline and coldline storage. Probably the most, the cost-effective storage tier that you can get in the industry today. And this is only benefiting you if you choose to have a core model. So again, going first to that core model, the gold copy is going to be stored inside of the cloud. But the other half of the core was the fact that you get something called the edge. And the edge is where I get to access my data. So in the Nasuni world, again, it's the gold copy lives as objects, but you're going to access it from these small little disposable, ephemeral, virtual machines we call edges that can be spun up and present out the parts of the file system that you need access to. And the nice thing about this is you can tune those edges so that they are high performance. You can tune those edges so that they are durable. You can tune the edges so that they can be in different types of high availability modes. You can tune those edges so that they are sized appropriately for the amount of data that you need to access. It's very, very flexible because it's a virtual instance. It's a virtualization of your file system in a way that does not affect the core. The core is in the object storage. That's where the durability is. But you access those cache copies there on the edge. So that's the second piece of this, which is I've got a core edge model. Core is where the data lives. The gold copy edge is where I access it from. And in a hybrid cloud world, whether it's a file system, whether it's a data lake, whether it's even just a SaaS application that used to be an on-premise application, this is the model that you want to be able to move to. You want to move to a model in which you can take advantage of the scale of the core, but take advantage of the ephemeral nature of the edge or the flexibility of the edge. So whatever kind of hybrid cloud environment you're evaluating, think about the core edge model first. Does it have those properties? Can I use a core inside the cloud and edge inside of my local services? And by the way, the edge can actually be anywhere. It could be inside of a local data center. It could be inside a regional office. It could be inside a second cloud. It could be inside the cloud. Those edges is kind of a broad term here, but it basically means that where I access the data is not necessarily where the durable tier is. And then the other thing I'll say about the edge model is the fact that the edges are within your security perimeter. So when you think about the edges, think about the fact that you have control over that environment as opposed to that second environment that's up there in the cloud. But my point from before was this allows for the simplified management. If you have that architecture, if you have a core for your data, edge in which you access it, now managing this can become so much easier. Managing it can become easier because it could be your data is in one location. The logical copy of your environment is in one location. Management is easier because you have one control plane that you can use for the different edges. Management is easier because it allows for the difficult challenges of having to manage the data at rest now existing inside of a core, whereas the challenges of of access on the edge, which can be ephemeral, to be easier to manage from a central location. So we see that in hybrid cloud environments where it is important to be able to simplify management, starting with the core edge model is a key part of that. Let me move into monitoring a second. So the next point I wanted to make was leveraging an ecosystem of best-in-class visualization, monitoring, alerting tools can really, really simplify not just the decisions you have to make today, but the decisions you have to make in the future. So I'll make a quick little pitch here for something that we've invested in the SUNY, which is the open TIG stack, Telegraph, InfluxDB, and Grafana. And if you're not familiar with the TIG stack, it's a very commonly used stack that you can use to monitor all different aspects of your hybrid cloud environment, or actually any kind of environment, hybrid or on-premise. And TIG stands for Telegraph, which is this collector of data. So Telegraph is a system which will allow you to collect data from lots of different sources. It could be from AMQP sources. It could be from some message queues. It could be from syslog servers. It could be from specific APIs into third-party servers. But Telegraph is this open platform that lots of other technologies have started to use to be able to gather data into one place. InfluxDB, the second part of the stack, is the database that's time series based. It makes it really, really easy to collect a lot of information and to be able to manage that information very, very quickly. So it allows you to stream a lot of stuff quickly. And then finally, Grafana. One thing I love about Grafana is that it is such a rich set of templates to be able to have these very, very easy to use and very, very impactful monitoring solutions. And there's a community around this where people share their different Grafana views. And what we've seen with our customers is when we introduce them to something like the TIG stack and we give them access to our own versions of how to manage in the SUNY environment, they will quickly start to adapt that to the other things within their environment. And so we're a very big proponent of trying to leverage the ecosystems that are most robust, that are growing, the ecosystems that are active, that have lots of other both customers as well as partners interacting with those. And just as a quick idea here, if you want to look at a Nasuni dashboard, if you go to GitHub's our GitHub repository called Nasuni Labs, there's a project called Nasuni Dashboards, where you can see something like this, where we provide things like our Nasuni core metrics, CPU memory utilization, memory cache, the things you would expect to be able to monitor those edge appliances, the amount of uptime, but then some things from the logical environment too, the number of users that are there, a little bit about the cache activity and the status. We have this other product called Global File Acceleration, which tells you how quickly data is moving throughout your environment. As you get to more complex and sophisticated multi-cloud or hybrid cloud environments, having the ability to watch data flows is important. And this is our monitoring tool for that as well. Being able to see which data is moving where, how quickly appliances are able to share data across different appliances. And then the final thing I want to emphasize is this notion of security by design. And I say this not just for when you look at a company like Nasuni, but really any company, as you're trying to inquire whether a product is really well suited to the challenges of an ever increasingly complex security environments that we're all in, to really be asking this question: is security built in from the very beginning? And I will just point out two quick things here that I would look for. The first one is this idea of encrypting at the edge, controlling your security perimeter so that any data that comes from within your security perimeter is encrypted before it leaves your data center. With Nasuni, that's what we do as part of our design of our product. You cannot turn this off. This is just part of what happens every time you put a file onto a Nasuni appliance. It will get encrypted with keys that you own. That's the other important thing, keys that you control. And that data then is sent into the public cloud fully encrypted. So AES 256 encryption before it actually moves into the cloud. That is a really, really critical design principle for products today. Encrypt at the edge so you can push it into the cloud. And any enterprise that is looking to develop a hybrid cloud environment should really be asking that question. Every time data moves, is it being encrypted? And I'm not just talking about HTTPS encryption for the transaction. I'm talking about, is the payload encrypted? And so I would certainly look to that. And then the second thing is what used to be kind of the province of certain highly regulated industries, but the idea of where possible using worm storage for storing the data at the quote unquote durable tier. And what worm stands for write once, read many. It basically means if I write it, I can't overwrite it. And that right there is so incredibly important for when you are trying to either recover files, which is the biggest place in which that becomes a real benefit, or if you are trying to go back and do any kind of forensic analysis about what may have happened inside of an environment. So having the ability to only write and not to overwrite files or write or overwrite objects, however you think about it, is critically important. And that's what we do at Nasuni. Every time a file gets written, you can modify files, you can change files, but every time that gets written and then transformed into objects, those objects are all worm objects. That means that every change that happens inside your environment gets captured as objects, and there's no way to go back and change anything in history that has occurred with those objects. And so that's the second thing that I would highly encourage people to look for, which is worm storage designed into the product? If I have a hybrid cloud environment, am I making sure that I can always go back and look at an immutable copy of the previous version or the previous files that I've used? So with that said, I am going to, sorry, I actually got it. That's an example of the encrypted file getting into Nasuni. I'm actually going to open up for Q&A.
Outstanding. Hey, great presentation today, John. I love seeing what Nasuni is doing with hybrid cloud environments. So much innovation, as we've just literally come to expect with Nasuni. So you are ready for some questions, and what I am going to do while we get those ready for you is I'm going to throw up the poll question for Nasuni. Let them know what additional information you would like about their solution. John presented so much great stuff today in so many ways that they can help you as you're moving into hybrid cloud, or you've been there for a while and are looking to do it even better. So please let them know while we go through those questions. I also want to remind everyone before we get started with the Q&A about the handouts. We've got a PDF from Nasuni available for download right now, and it's a guide on how to evaluate hybrid cloud storage solutions. That seems a little bit relevant today to what we're talking about. So check that out for more detail while we dive in here. John, are you ready to go?
Sure thing. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent. So first question up today, can you give me an example of other core edge models?
Yes. So not just with Nasuni, but outside of that, when if you look at data lakes and how data lakes are starting to evolve today, it's the idea that I'm going to put everything into an object store. And then there are these sort of variants of those, these kind of like either Delta lakes or these like lake houses, where parts of the data lake then get applied to or then accessed in other locations. Sometimes I'm copying a bunch of files into another location so I can do a bunch of analytics on it, and then move it back into the data lake at the end. That's a really common occurrence that we're starting to see now, particularly on the sort of analytics side, and particularly with generative AI and so much of how many enterprises are sort of having to grapple with this idea of how do we manage these large data lake solutions. That's a really good example of how core edge, or at least thinking about core edge models, is going to be really critical to being able to manage those relationships. I'd say on the other side of that, even something as simple as like SharePoint Online. is a good example of that, where I'm going to be putting everything into SharePoint projects and directories and containers, but I'm going to be accessing them on my laptops, or I'm going to be accessing them on these edge devices and desktops to some degree inside of like OneDrive as well. Another example then more on the end user side, not necessarily on the analytics side, but more and more we're starting to see how the what used to be that there was the gold copy of your data was always inside of your environment, could be on a desktop, could be inside of a data center. We're moving that core to the public cloud, and then everything else becomes a way of accessing on the edge. And almost all of those cases I mentioned, that edge is not considered to be the authoritative copy. It might be the working copy. The authoritative copy is going to be in the core.
Great. So important to understand that distinction. Thanks. Okay, next up is someone who was paying close attention to you when you were talking about the TIG stack. They want to know, other than TIG stack, are there other examples of ecosystem technologies for monitoring?
Yeah, so we saw a good one earlier, Dynatrace. I think they're a great one. I think that one that we see a lot are the public cloud providers. This gets into a little bit more on the SIEM side of it, but I think Azure Sentinel does a really, really good job of this as well. They certainly have spent a lot of time collecting, or being a good part of an ecosystem where they can collect a lot of signals. And I think the more that you think about your environment, there's certainly parts of your environment that you want to only manage and have that data, that monitoring data, that telemetry data stay within your environment. But when thinking about integrating with these other public cloud services like Sentinel, there's a real value in moving and being able to send some of the data that you're collecting into a public, or not necessarily public, but a more centralized service like that. Because one of the things that Azure Sentinel is able to do, because they're collecting data telemetry from so many customers, is they can develop the more sophisticated detection models based on that. And I think there's only an advantage of the scale that they have as we get to these more sophisticated types of attacks, by having something like Sentinel that can be monitoring lots and lots of different environments.
Great. Great. Okay, and I think we have time for one more question before we let you go today, John, and that is this. You talked about Worm before, and so the follow-up to that, someone wants to know, well, how does Worm then help secure your data?
So what it can do is it can actually, it's almost like it gives you a little bit more of a relief that your data is not as compromisable. Let me say it that way. So securing the data, meaning like creating a perimeter around the data or making it hard to access, is one thing. But assume for a second that the data is somehow or the systems are somehow accessed. What Worm basically allows you to do is to say, it doesn't matter what happens to my data, I know it's always going to be there and available and immutable. And when I say that, that's because you can set up these, particularly object storage systems, so that not only do the applications write in a Worm way, but then you can't really delete the data as well. And so it gives you the peace of mind that if there's an event that is compromising your data, you're not going to lose the data because you have that permanent record. And that's a real mindset shift for a lot of customers, for a lot of IT executives, to be thinking about the fact that we have the tools and technology today at a very, very reasonable price performance level to be able to have a permanent record of all the things that happen within our enterprise. And that is very, very powerful for when you're taking a security posture, particularly when it comes to ransomware events, which have become potentially like career-ending events or company-ending events. Knowing I can always go back to that gold copy is incredibly important, and that's what Worm can give you. And
I mean, that's so top of mind for everyone, is protecting against ransomware these days. Well, John, this was a real delight to have you on today. I want to thank you for being here and for educating us on the SUNY.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay, folks, I'm going to leave this poll question up here another few seconds so you have few more moments to vote in this and let Nasuni know how they can reach out and help you. And we are about to move now to our very last presentation in the EcoCast, last but never least. So we're going to do that right now. Thanks again to John. And now we are going to hear next from Progress Software. This session is going to be led by Greg Collins, the product marketing manager. Now, he's going to be joined at the end of the presentation by Theodore Herrera. Theodore's going to be coming on for some Q&A when Greg wraps that up. So let's get to the presentation now. Greg, you have got the floor.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Keith. Great to be here. Hi, everyone. So my topic for today is how to monitor your modern IT infrastructure. I have a lot of slides here and not much time, so I'm gonna get going. So to give a quick introduction of who I am, my name is Greg Collins, and I'm the product marketing manager for Progress's What's Up Gold. My job here is to inform you, the audience, on IT infrastructure monitoring and hopefully provide some valuable insights that help you boost IT efficiency. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask. So I'll start by going through the agenda. I'm not going to spend too much time here on this slide, but the goal here is to tell a story about how you go from manual or no monitoring to what we describe as the best type of monitoring, which we call customized monitoring. So I'll start by talking about the challenges that IT operators face today. To put it simply, it's quite difficult to keep track of everything. Every network that is in production has so many moving parts and things are constantly changing. With the security landscape of today, there are patches, software updates, things change or they get blocked. So there's so many things for people to consider. All of this is also happening on top of the normal job responsibilities that someone has in the IT operations space. And it doesn't help that the expectations are for near 100% uptime while accounting for all of these ongoing changes in the environment. So with that, I'll look at the business challenges. If an application or service becomes unavailable, to put it frankly, people can't work. There's a real danger in damage of reputation. Customers hitting an unavailable service are much less likely to return ever again, and that can damage your revenue and reputation. We actually conducted some studies to figure out what does it actually cost the business. I won't read the numbers off the slide here, but as you can see, every outage, there's a loss of revenue for the business. And there's also a knock-on effect of lost time for employees who may be sitting idle. So with that being said, we'll firstly look at the non-automated detection approach. We've actually encountered a lot of different customers in the past that were trying to do all of this manually and found that they were getting very frustrated or overwhelmed with the whole process. We've seen customers manually logging into systems, trying to write their own scripts and spending an enormous amount of time trying to do it all themselves. In theory, it is possible to take this approach, but as networks continue to scale and grow, new services get introduced, and the manual scripted-based approach that people take can become quite overwhelming. There's also another spanner in the works here, employee churn. This can halt the whole process. You need to think, what if that person leaves the company? You're left struggling, trying to figure out, how do I maintain this going forward? So I suppose the overarching lesson from this slide in particular is you don't want to do it all by hand. So next up, I want to talk about discovery intelligence. Basically, what discovery intelligence is it's a system that can make decisions for you, but also take input based on what you know about your systems. So it's one thing to identify things automatically, but it's another thing to identify things automatically and apply all the proper monitoring information along with it, customized to your specific environment. Not only that, it's important that this is ongoing since networks are always changing. So from an automation standpoint, it's important to have the discovery be scheduled or be run on demand every so often so that you have the most up-to-date information. But the most important piece of this is the customizability. As I mentioned before, every network is different. Even the same make and model in different environments operate differently. So next up, I want to take a quick look at the evolution of IT infrastructure monitoring. So I already ran through the non-automated detection. So we're going from a low context and manual to high context and automated on one axis. And on the other, you see going from nothing to reactive. So discovery intelligence kind of lives in the middle between out-of-the-box monitoring and customized monitoring. And we'll talk about those a little more here. The discovery intelligence process here is really iterative. Yes, it starts with initiating a scan, collecting data and returning results and making some decisions with those results. Well, it doesn't actually end there. It's continuous because networks are ever changing all the time. Now let's take a look at out-of-the-box monitoring. And when I say out-of-the-box monitoring, what do I mean by that? Really, it's things that are available directly after installation of the product. A lot of products call them different things, be it sensors, monitors, elements, whatever it may be. But really, it comes down to availability and performance. And a vast majority of products should be offering the basics here directly out of the box. There shouldn't be any customization necessary or required. It really just saves you time to make sure you're monitoring best practices directly out of the box. And when I mention best practices here, what do we actually mean by that? Well, when it comes to network systems like routers, switches, firewalls, etc., you want to look at everything you can from the availability perspective. Their interface utilization especially is important here. You can look at the status of each and every interface on that system. So really, it all comes down to what is critical to your particular environment. In certain environments, you may need to monitor everything and know what's going on across the board. And in others, some aspects of the system may not be anywhere near as important. So the key to this is you want to start with what's best to monitor from your perspective. Onto operating systems. Well, it depends on what it is, really. At the very least, you're talking about CPU, disk, memory utilization, as well as making sure the device is actually responsive itself. From a cloud systems perspective, the most important thing is really connectivity. Can your systems go access that cloud resource? Things like scalability and performance can come in later. And when we talk about servers, you really want to make sure you're looking at all of the aspects of that hardware. That's critically important as disk health. I'm sure you've seen this out in the wild, but failed disk can lead to really bad outages. And that's the best practices that we have. But there's also some other elements that we want you to look into. And when it comes to best practices, there's also common issues to avoid. So I've listed out 6 in particular here. So the first up we have is false positives. And what this is basically getting an alert and going and checking on said alert, and everything's working as expected. Well, the problem here really is that you have to do something about it. You need to do something about it. So whatever system you have should be configurable in a way that allows you to increase timeouts. So next up is ensuring that you don't have overly aggressive settings. So depending on the system, they might have polling cycles or some sort of data retention. You want to make sure it's in line with what your business actually requires and not necessarily going overly aggressive with the data alert. Alert storms are important as well. So the system should be able to avoid alert storms in some sort of way. A perfect example of this is, let's say a router at the remote site becomes unavailable. Thus all systems behind that router are actually unavailable. So having one alert in that situation is much more preferable to hundreds, if not thousands, depending on the size of that environment. So due to time constraints, I'm not going to go into all of the issues here, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. So next up, I want to talk about customized monitoring, and that's one that I'm really excited to be talking about today. So to give an overview, what is customized monitoring? It's really just the ability to make adjustments to your system. As mentioned earlier, that could be monitors, sensors, elements, whatever you want to call it in terms of how you get the information. But that also includes notification and corrective actions, actually fixing the problem as well as that discovery intelligence. The extensibility of the system is more important than ever nowadays due to the ever-changing landscape of IT operations and the introduction of new services, microservices, etc. There's a system sprawl all over the place, but really remember we're talking about the IT operator in the end. So how are they supposed to accommodate for everything? They need to begin automating resolutions to issues. For some more specific examples of what you can customize, if you remember, I gave some best practices, but you could also look at things like SSL certificates. Even Google, Facebook, all the big players have had outages related to SSL certificate expiration. And frankly, it's quite embarrassing. You can monitor for that, but also, services, processes, maybe REST APIs and applications you use. It all just really depends on your particular environment. But back to the discovery intelligence again, it's not just a matter of telling it which monitors to assign to which types of devices. You can create rules around how to detect certain things. It's future-proof in that sense. As long as the connectivity is there and we support said protocols, the system should be able to define new objects as they become available very easily, down to the actions and automated resolutions. By automating processes, you can save yourself hours of time every single day. And from an IT operator perspective, this is increasingly important considering the expectations that I mentioned earlier on. I'm not going to dig in again too much into this, but any questions, please feel free to send them in. I just want to quickly talk about REST API and just define basically what it is. So it's some sort of way to enable an integration, either displaying data from your system on some other system, or maybe automatically take an action in the system. So, for example, a new virtual machine automatically being monitored as soon as it's done being provisioned. So bringing this all together now, I'll talk about what exactly WhatsUp Gold is. So you may have noticed throughout the presentation, there were some screenshots. But this is of the WhatsUp Gold platform. So WhatsUp Gold is an IT infrastructure monitoring solution that automatically discovers and maps everything in your particular environment, including those dependencies. It's easy to use in terms of customizability as well. So we're covering the best practices directly out of the box. But it's also very extensible based on what the requirements are within your particular environment. So if you want to learn more, simply go to whatsupgold.com/trial just to try it yourself. We also have an interactive demo online, which can be found at whatsupgold.com/demo. And before I hand it back to Keith, I just want to go through some of the takeaways from this presentation. So really, it comes down to what you're expected nowadays to customize your monitoring in some sort of way. So no solution can cover every single scenario directly out of the box that can cause an outage in your environment. So it's important that whatever system you do adopt has some sort of way to be customized. And something that's very important with this is the ease of customization to make your life a lot easier when it comes to fine-tuning things within your environment. So that's probably the most important thing. Every single network is unique and could require different settings. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to complex networks. So with all that being said, now I'm going to pass it back to Keith. I see that a few questions have come in. So thanks very much for everyone for listening, and let's get into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. Thank you so much for that overview of what Progress is doing and WhatsUp Gold specifically. I'm throwing up the last poll question of the day here, and this is about what additional information you'd like about the Progress solution. So, unfortunately, Greg was not able to stay for the Q&A, but stepping in for him is Senior Technical Support Engineer Theodore Herrera. Theodore, are you ready to get started? Yep.
Yeah,
there we go.
I'm ready, Keith.
All right, great. I can hear you clearly. So thanks for being here with us today. And before we get started, I did want to mention that we have got a PDF from Progress Software that provides a comprehensive overview of its WhatsUp Gold Total Plus edition. So make sure to check that out if you would like more detail. So with that, Theodore, we're going to dive in here. So first question on tap for you today. How skilled do you need to be to start using WhatsUp Gold right out of the box? In other words, is there a really strong learning curve we're talking about here?
The base level that you would want to at least have a starting knowledge on is SNMP and WMI. Those are the two primary ways that WUG's going to start right off the bat of monitoring your services, your disk utilization, memory utilization, either through one of those two protocols, WMI or SNMP. That is at least the base, the most minimal you'll need right there is knowing those right there.
Okay. Yeah, not really a high bar at all. Okay. Warren wants to know, is your service meant for any size organization?
There are ways you can, for large organizations, we do have a distributed edition, which allows you to deploy multiple WhatsUp Gold throughout your environment. So you can have one central with a bunch of remotes sitting in your environment, and they the Essential will allow you to get a glimpse into what's going into your remote installations. This would be the more preferred way of doing this because it allows you to segment into larger networks. You can segment this out and just minimizing protocol port numbers being open between different networks. But it's the go-to method for larger environments is a distributed edition of What's Up Gold.
That makes good sense. Okay, next up today, how would you progress to use more of the additional features of the product? I assume they're talking about What's Up Gold.
So for the more advanced features, it really comes down to what are you trying to monitor and how and the way that you go about it, I would say. Prime example is if you're trying to pull some type of data through PowerShell or trying to get some type of data. You can use PowerShell, active script monitoring. You can create REST API monitors that you can configure to hit a REST API of a different application and to give back a result that you're looking for. I mean, there are the sky's the limit, I should really say. It all depends on how would you monitor it first outside of What's Up Gold, and then try to incorporate that into the product. There's so many different ways to do something within our side of our product. SSH, like I said, REST API, WMI, going after specific counters, knowing what you're trying to collect from an operating system. You can monitor your actual MySQL or your actual SQL databases pulling queries. You just need to know how would you get that data, and we would have ways in our product you can customize through those methods.
Okay, so very important what you just pointed out. Essentially, what you're talking about is extensibility here and customizability, which is so important because every single environment is different, as you have mentioned here. No one has the exact same monitoring needs that anyone else has, and having a product with that flexibility is just a key when you're looking at, at all the competitors out there, for sure. Along those same lines, then, someone wants to know, how do you differentiate your solution from others on the market today? So that's essentially a follow-on to what we've said. So in other words, I would ask it this way: when you go out into the field, Theodore, how do you win against the competition? What do you tell them, about your stuff?
Well, the thing is, like, one device, regardless of how many different types of monitors on it, is still one device. You can have 30 monitors, 40 elements on it. It's still only one device within the product itself. So that allows you to put your customized monitors onto that device. I can monitor my interfaces. I can actually pull interface utilization, memory utilization. I can, if it's a Windows-based device, I can monitor if it's housing SQL, I can monitor the SQL instance while at the same time monitoring the actual services and everything else. And it all counts as just one device within the setup. But there's other ways of doing it as well. You can monitor that single device in one aspect, and in another aspect of our product, you can throw together a profile that acts as a single application itself to give you even the further detailed information of how the application is performing. But it still comes down to, if you're just trying to monitor one device, you can just monitor one device with a large amount of elements on it, and it's still only one device for the license.
So if I'm putting on my marketing hat here, right, and I'm writing some copy, I might put that as very flexible but still efficient, right?
Yes,
it
is very efficient with your licensing. It's very efficient, but at the same time, that gives you the ability to spend points into other parts of our product. As a total licensing scheme comes, you can monitor your devices through the core functionality of What's Up Gold. Then you can spend the additional points you're not using for all those elements to monitor use ENTA, use our application monitoring, use our log management tool inside our product. Spend those points that you would normally to other parts of the product to be able to utilize the additional functionality. So you're not just all in one area.
Exactly. Okay. This is such good stuff, Theodore. Final question for you today. You've generated a lot of interest about Progress Software and What's Up Gold. For those who are interested in finding out more, and remember, we still got the poll question up for everyone to keep responding. What would you recommend as the next step that someone who does want to go further take with Progress?
It always starts. I always recommend customers to look at our documentation, right? And that's just not your online help or anything along those. Also, look at our community. Our technical support itself. We are actively creating those articles, updating it. We're constantly being proactive with our actual community by giving up-to-date information. We're trying to stay ahead of the curve. So if you see an issue, or if you want to know something new, or if we're always updating documentation to stay relevant. That is the key thing.
That's a really important factor, because I find that many companies, documentation is kind of an afterthought. And then you go to check something and you go to find out something, and anything you can find is a year old, is 2 years old, and basically, useless with the velocity that the internet moves at. So, so really glad to hear that, Theodore.
Anytime.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anytime we have cases that come in, we use that data from those cases to update articles. So if it's a new case scenario, we're most likely creating an article on it for the community, or any additional information that needs to come out that we're like, okay, that article needs to be improved, so we will improve it.
That is just so valuable for everyone in terms of using the product, ease of use, and the collaborative nature is crucial, I think, for top shelf products like this. So, Theodore, thank you so much for your time and insights in the Q&A today. It was a real pleasure to have you and Progress Software on presenting.
Thank you very much. I'm glad we were here.
Me too. Thank you. All right, folks. What a lot of fun that was to have Progress on and all of our vendors today. And with that, we are now coming up to the close of our event, but we're not there yet. It is time right now for our final prize drawing of the day. While I leave this, the poll question up for Progress Software a little bit longer, we have one more $300 Amazon gift card to give away. And the winner of that one is Eric Hamilton from Kentucky. Way to go, Eric. We'll be in touch about claiming your prize. So, folks, that's it then. What an outstanding event. If you like it, and if you liked what you heard and saw today, remember that we can do something just like this for your product or company. We also have custom events we can craft just for you. So contact us at connect@actualtechmedia.com for more information. And tomorrow is Valentine's Day. And with that in mind, everyone, you're going to love, see what I did there? You're going to love this Cloud Security Fest. Take a look at our sponsors that we have got, and that'll tell you all you need to know. So many great names in the cloud security space, which means so much education for you. Now, this starts a little bit earlier than our events normally do. So this is tomorrow, February 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern, which is 8 a.m. Pacific time. For those of you out in California and other places on the West Coast, it's worth getting up a little bit earlier for, I promise you that. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank all of our presenters today for putting together these fantastic presentations and demos. I want to thank them for their Q&A participation. And I want to thank all of the sponsors who brought this to you today. And they include Catchpoint, Commvault, Dynatrace, Nisuni, and Progress Software. Finally, we'd like to thank all of you for attending the EcoCast from Actual Tech Media, for all of your great questions. I loved your feedback on the Super Bowl question at the beginning. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And as another reminder, our Amazon gift card winners for today were Al Giansanti, Bilal Zuberi, and Eric Hamilton. So everyone, that's all, folks. That concludes the event. Have a great rest of your day, and go Commanders.